Today we're going to be working on the swim bait mold from Do It Molds. This is the model number here, in case you want this model. It's their swim bait head. It's one of their only swim bait head ones. This is the larger size mold one. I'll show you here. We have 1.5, 1.25. We have the 1 ounce and the 3/4 ounce. So the 3/4 ounce is a small one. So this is a big size. It only has 4 holes in it. There is a smaller size that has 5 that goes up to 3/4. This is not that one. This is the bigger one. So the purpose of today's video is we're going to make it so we can attach a leader here, a braided steel leader, into the mold, into the head here, so we can attach a treble hook onto the back of this. So we can hook it into the swim baits. We can get a little better hookup ratio on some of those finicky bass that are going to be short hitting or just missed strikes. You should get a lot better hookup ratio. But to do that, as you can see here, is we have this right here, this little ledge. We're going to have to make a groove in it on both sides on all of these. Basically right here where the pencil is. Just all the way out. We're going to grind it out on both sides. That way our braided leader can pass right through the mold so it can close correctly, and we can still pour a good quality swim bait head without any gaps, and the mold's still going to close right and everything is going to pour correctly. Alright, so how I'm going to do this is I'm going to take my calipers and I'm going to measure the distance here, and then we're going to subtract it in half, and then we're going to put our line there, and you want to match it on both sides of the mold, and then we're going to put a little groove in there with the Dremel. I'm going to use a cutoff wheel for the Dremel. You could also use a file or something like that. So I'm getting approximately 3 millimeters. That number is really not going to make a huge difference. We want to be close as we can. It doesn't have to be perfect. There will be a little bit of forgiveness with the squish of the braid. Obviously, half of 3 is 1.5. Got 1.5 there. So we're going to put it there. We're just going to make a little scrape. And then come back in there with the pencil and darken that line. So just right there. And then we're going to put it on the other side here. The same as the other side. We want it to be as close as we can get it. A little scrape. And go in there with the pencil. Okay, there we go. It's going to be loud once I turn the tool on, but basically what I'm going to try to do here, to come from this other side, is basically just going to set this diamond wheel here and let it cut in slowly. You want to go really slow with this. You can't put the material back, so don't rush it and make a mistake. Try to go slow and just, check it frequently. Make sure you're not too deep or anything. This wire, as you can see, is not really thick, so we really don't have to cut in that far. So we're going to check it often. We're going to make the divot on both sides, see if it closes, and then we're going to keep working it like that. All right, we're going to check it there. I'm going to see how we did here. I'm going to feed this right in the gap. I'm going to close the mold over top. And we're going to check for gaps. You see, that's pretty good right there. It barely took any to get us to fit that in there. If you can see, we're nice and tight there. And that's about perfect. That's about what you want. You don't want any more than that taken off, because then you're going to have bismuth or lead or whatever you're pouring in there. It's going to start leaking out. So really you want it snug, but you want the mold to be fully closed. What I've got here is a nice long piece of leader. You really want to give yourself extra space because once it's in the jig mold, obviously we're going to try to put it around this hook. This is a 6/0 hook. This one is specific for this exact mold. If you're using a different mold, you're going to have to use the hook that's good for it. But I would prefer to wrap around the hook shank. So we wrap around the hook shank, and then we need to come out here still. And so you want to have enough tag back here that you have enough room to make your loop with your hook on it and still be able to crimp it and stay within the desired distance. If you make this too short, you still have to remember that you have to loop this, and so you're going to be even shorter than you thought it was. So you want to make it a little bit longer. You don't have to make it extremely long, but make it a little longer just so you don't end up with a mistake. If you buy Catfish leader, I think I found this at an academy. This is like a pre-made Catfish leader. I think it comes in like, I don't know, 10 or 12 inches. But it has these pre-made pieces on there. You see those double hooks? And you can get that to work if you don't have crimps or any way to cut the wire or anything like that. You can use that. If you take off this, I mean, you had to cut that, so you had to have some kind of cutters. But you can just pull this clip off here, and you can use it. It's not perfect, but it can work. I'll show you here, and we'll make one with this just to show you that this will work, and then I'll show you how to make your own. The easiest way to do this is to bend it right here. So you have a 90 degree, because you're going to have to stick it in the mold down here and then up through your hook shanks, just like that. You feed the hook through, just like this. Oh, that's backwards. Just like that. So you have that L right there. And then we put it right here in the mold, seat the hook shank, and then look at that. We are right on target. Now, and it can be a little hard to hold this all in there in place, but that actually looks pretty good. And you can see here, you got a fixed option here with this. So this is kind of long. If you're gonna be doing this, I'd recommend making your own. But if you have no other option, you can use this. This is mainly for huge swim baits because you can see how far away this hook is. Or you can have the tag and you can hook it anywhere really. But you know, this is kind of gonna get in the way as you're hooking up on there. But we'll make this and we'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so we're gonna demold it now. Now that it is hardened. You can see we got a good pour. Let's see when we get it out here. Sometimes these can be stubborn. There we go. So it's a good casting. Everything about it looks really good. The one thing I will say about when you're doing this is it's not my favorite for a couple of reasons here. It's pretty long. Now if you're using, you know, a 7-inch swim bait or something, you're probably fine. You know, if you're using anything bigger than that, you're totally fine. The other thing here is though, since this is already closed, it is crimped factory. So, you know, that's a plus, as long as the machine did it correctly, which it probably did. But you have to use a split ring on that loop because it's already closed. So that adds a little extra weight and adds one more failure point. So that's why I like to crimp on myself, because you can just crimp the hook straight on there. You have your crimp and you have your hook, and there's no extra steps. Now, as far as getting the hook off, if you do that, you know, you're not going to get the hook off without cutting the leader, which is good when you're fishing. But if you need to change that hook or for any reason, it could be a problem. You could probably cut the hook and get it off there. But yeah, if that's something you're afraid of, then you can definitely go this way, crimp it first, and then just put a split ring on there, and that's not a problem. Perhaps another plus for the split ring option is that you could put multiple types of hooks on there. So if you wanted something more weedless, you could go with like a little wacky hook like that. And then if you were fishing, you know, more open water, you could always switch it out to a treble hook. You could also do that, I guess, with a clip. There's the options are pretty much endless here. You could use one of these clips, clip on any hook you want or whatever you want, or you can go with a split ring and just change it out. I mean, a little more work to change it out. You can go with a split ring, or you can do it the way I like to do it and just hook the treble straight to it. I know that I'm not going to be throwing this in grass, and probably most of you are not going to throw this into grass. This is a very heavy swim bait head, so the more likely you'll be throwing this on rock points or deep water or even salt water, and so a treble hook's fine. If there's for some reason like regulations against using treble hooks, like probably in Washington State and Maine, maybe a couple other places, there might be regulations on treble hooks or how many hooks you can have on your line at a time. That's something to consider. Maybe using a wacky hook for, and that's going to get you this same result. It's just a smaller hook. I mean, you can put a bigger hook on there, but it's one hook versus, you know, the 3 over there. Here in Texas, they can, I think they let us have like up to 10 hooks or something crazy. I'll have to check that again. Don't quote me on that, but yeah. So putting a treble hook on there is fine from where I am and the fishing regulations that I fish in. But definitely check your local regulations before you go ahead and put treble hooks on there, and you may end up having to go with the wacky hook here. So this fluke here is the biggest I have on hand currently. I cut the tip off so we get it flat. I'll show you here. I was putting it on, and don't forget to put your keeper on there as well. That really helps keep those baits on the hook and not tearing off and falling away, because that gets expensive. There we go. So we push it up there nice and snug, and I really like this swim bait jig head. It's really nice. I like that it has the bottom keel on it, and it doesn't fit these flukes great, but it's not too bad. But you can kind of see here what I'm talking about as far as the length of this, because if you hook it back in here, I mean, you can, but you're going to inhibit the action a little bit. Now, I know you can flex this. You can flex this leader. Kind of. It's pretty tight, but you really want it up here in the back. But you can see that's not optimal. So I'll show you here how to make your own leader, and that's going to be better for most people. If you had the stuff to make it, I would definitely prefer, or I would prefer to make it. So what you're going to need is 2 of these crimps. These are leader crimps. I think I got them at Bass Pro or somewhere. You can probably find them on Amazon. I don't remember exactly what size these are, but I do know that it fits the leader I have pretty well. It fits that pretty snugly. It allows it to go back through it without a problem. So all you really got to do is just slide this thing on here. This crimp, slide the crimp on there, double this back, get a little bend, and then you're going to stick it back through. It's kind of hard to do. Stick it back through this hole, right like that, and push it up, push it up, push it up as far as it'll go. Well, not as far as it'll go, but, you know, until you got a nice, reasonably sized loop. So just like that is good. And there are specific crimping tools for these. I don't have those, so I just use a pair of pliers. I use the cutting edge. And you don't want to cut, obviously, but see how it's wedged in there, and you just flatten it out. That has always worked for me. I have never had one pop, and I have never lost a fish because of the crimp. It is probably better to have the tool, and there is a tool. Probably find it, you know, at Bass Pro or Amazon or wherever. So then we're going to go ahead and we're going to take our leader. I'm going to give it that bend, 90-degree bend. And we're going to feed it on. So it sits like that. So you're going to feed it on upside down. Just like that. Feed it on all the way up. Rotate it. Then you got your keeper in the hole. And then put your hook right there in the hook slot. And then we're gonna put it right through here. And it is hard to keep it all in there without closing it. But you can kind of keep pressure there. And it's gonna find its way in the mold with the grooves. You can see I didn't quite get it right there. Sometimes it takes a couple tries, which is it's kind of annoying with these molds. Is these aren't the right keepers, and so probably that's why it gives me so many problems. Do It has their own specific keeper for this. And give this a little bend. It's a double keeper. This is a single keeper, but it still works. All right, we've poured that. We go ahead and open it up and remove it just like we did with the last one. We've got it out of the mold now. I probably put too much on there. I'm gonna show you another one. This is that same one, but I cut it shorter and did the crimp on it. And this is about the perfect length. If I'll show you, if you're using a swim bait about this size, which I believe is a 7-inch, this ends up right by the body there. That's what you want. You want it still in the body because you don't want to inhibit any of the motion in your tail. Of course, this is a non-motion lure, but if you were to have a paddle tail on here, you would want your hook to be back up in here. I'll go ahead and slide on our crimp here. I'll slide that on, push it down the hook, or down the wire. Take your hook, slide your hook on. And then this is where you set your distance here. When you have extra tag, it makes it a little easier because you can push it through and have something to grab onto down here to make this loop the right size. So I'm thinking somewhere in there, just past the hook shank over here is fine. So I'm gonna pull this tight. Just right like that. I think that's gonna be really good. So I'll go ahead and I'll cut this tag off, and then I'll go ahead and crimp this down. If I ever decide to sell these to you guys, or if you guys want to buy these, I'll get an actual crimper, but for now I'm gonna do it the way I've always done it. I mean, it's fine, it works, it's just not the prettiest looking thing in the world. So there you have it. That's basically all you gotta do. And this will fit most swim baits. Like this one is sized for 7-inch swim baits. But you can make this any size swim bait you want. This is, of course, the heaviest head at, I think, 1 3/4. So this is, this is a big lure, big soft lure presence, obviously. You can do this with smaller ones too. Obviously, you have to size your treble hook accordingly. You're gonna have to go really small if you're going really small with the head. That trailer hook's gonna have to be really small. Let me throw this one on here and give you a last look at it here. Normally I don't throw flukes, well, normally at all, but I did that wrong. Normally I'll be throwing, a soft plastic swim bait with a paddle tail. Those are my favorite to throw. So there you have it. You tuck your hook here and you're ready to fish. So comment down below what you normally like to throw. What type of paddle tail or swim bait of any kind that you like to throw in this bigger sizes. And if you'd like to pick one of these up for me, I'm sure I could find a way to sell one to you. So thank you for watching, and like and subscribe, and comment what you want to see me make next.